From the story, when the alien queen saw me, she asked, "Are you single, human?" Captain Daniel Hayes stood inside the great hall of the Zalari capital, his heart steady but his thoughts racing. This was humanity's first true meeting with the Empire that had ruled vast regions of the galaxy for thousands of years. Until now, humans had only seen fragments, records, brief messages, and warnings carried through space. But today, Daniel was standing in the very heart of their shining citadel. The hall itself was breathtaking. Columns of crystal stretched high above, glowing faintly as if alive. The air shimmered with soft light, reflecting colors that shifted with every movement. Tall alien nobles stood in rows, their long cloaks flowing like rivers of silk. Their eyes, sharp and luminous, all turned toward the humans with expressions that carried both curiosity and doubt. Daniel glanced back at his own delegation. 3 scientists, 2 military guards, and an ambassador. They all looked uneasy, though they tried to hide it. Humanity had entered the galactic stage only a century ago, and compared to the Zalari, they were still children in space. Every word spoken today could decide if humans would be allies, servants, or enemies. At the center of the hall stood the throne. Upon it sat no one yet, but the air felt heavier there, as if waiting for the presence of someone powerful. A noble, tall and pale, stepped forward. His voice echoed softly. "Humans of Earth, you stand before the Zalari Empire. Speak your intent." Ambassador Ross, a calm older man, bowed slightly. "We come in peace. We seek friendship, trade, and understanding." Murmurs ran through the nobles. Some seemed amused, others doubtful. Daniel could feel their eyes measuring every movement, as though deciding whether humanity was worthy of their time. Then the moment came. The heavy doors at the far end of the hall opened. A silence deeper than space itself fell across the chamber. The alien queen entered. She moved with grace, tall and radiant, her presence filling the hall like a storm contained in human form. Her armor gleamed with jewels that glowed faintly, and her crown shimmered as if woven from starlight. Her eyes were not like human eyes. They were golden, sharp, yet strangely alive with warmth. Every noble bowed low as she passed. Daniel had read reports about her. Queen Seralith, ruler of the Zalari, protector of 12 star systems, victor of countless wars. She was said to be both feared and admired. For a moment, Daniel felt like a small candle standing before a sun. The queen reached the throne and sat with slow dignity. Her gaze swept the room, resting briefly on each human. When her eyes met Daniel's, he felt an unexpected weight in his chest. She studied him longer than the others, as though she could see through his very thoughts. "Humans," she said, her voice calm yet powerful, carrying across the hall without effort. "You come seeking friendship." Ambassador Ross bowed again. "Yes, Your Majesty. We come in respect." The queen tilted her head slightly, then spoke words no one expected. Her gaze fixed directly on Captain Hayes. "Are you single, human?" The hall froze. Every noble's eyes widened. Some covered their mouths. Others looked ready to argue. Even the human delegation was struck silent. Daniel blinked. Of all the questions he had prepared for, trade, war, resources, this was not one of them. He stood stiff, unsure if this was a joke, a cultural test, or something far more serious. The queen's golden eyes did not waver. She seemed almost amused by the silence. Ambassador Ross coughed lightly, whispering under his breath, "Careful, Daniel." Very careful. Daniel's mind raced. He could not laugh. It might be seen as disrespect. He could not stay silent. Silence might insult her. He had to answer, but how? Finally, he spoke, his voice steady but humble. "Your Majesty, I am not yet bound. I serve my people first." A ripple of whispers spread through the nobles. Some laughed softly, others frowned. The queen leaned back on her throne, studying him even more closely. "Not bound," she repeated softly, almost like she was testing the words. "Interesting," she smiled just slightly. It was not a cruel smile, but one that carried mystery. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. He had survived the question, but the queen's interest in him had not faded. If anything, it seemed to grow stronger. One noble finally spoke, his voice sharp. "Majesty, forgive me, but is this proper? To ask such a thing of a human envoy?" The queen lifted one hand, silencing him with ease. "Do not question me." Her eyes never left Daniel's. "Humans are new to this galaxy. We must know them in every way. Their courage, their loyalty, even their hearts." Daniel swallowed. He realized this was more than curiosity. It was a test. A strange one, but a test nonetheless. Ambassador Ross tried to steer the talk back to diplomacy. Your Majesty, Earth seeks knowledge and alliance. Our people? But the Queen interrupted, still watching Daniel. And what do you seek, Captain Hayes? The hall was silent again. Every alien noble stared. Daniel had not expected to be singled out. He was only supposed to be security, not the voice of Earth. But the Queen had chosen him. He took a slow breath. His father once told him, "When you stand before kings or queens, speak with truth, for they have heard every lie." "I seek understanding," Daniel said at last, "between your people and mine. We are different, yes, but difference does not mean distance. We can learn from one another." For a moment, the Queen's face softened. Her eyes gleamed, not with amusement this time, but with something else, perhaps respect. The nobles whispered louder now, some approving, others scoffing. Yet none dared to oppose the Queen's interest. After a long silence, the Queen rose from her throne. She stepped down slowly, her long robe gliding across the floor. She walked toward Daniel until she stood only a few steps away. Her golden eyes seemed brighter now. "You answer with courage," she said. "That is rare." Daniel bowed his head slightly. "Thank you, Majesty." The Queen turned, facing her nobles. "Let it be known, humanity has come before us not in fear but in strength. They will not be dismissed." Her words echoed across the hall. Some nobles looked displeased, but none spoke against her. Then, without warning, she glanced back at Daniel once more and repeated, almost playfully, "Still, are you single, human?" This time there was laughter, not mocking, but surprised. Even the human delegation smiled nervously. Daniel could only sigh inwardly. He had not expected the fate of Earth to begin with such a question, but deep down he felt something stir. Perhaps, just perhaps, the Queen's strange interest was not a danger, but an opportunity. The first encounter was not over. It had only just begun. From the story, when the alien Queen saw me, she asked, "Are you single, human?" Captain Daniel Hayes had not slept well since the encounter in the throne hall. The words of the alien Queen echoed in his mind. "Are you single, human?" Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the silence of the nobles, the shock on his fellow humans' faces, and the way her golden eyes seemed to glow with curiosity. It had not been just a random question. He felt it carried something deeper, though he still could not explain it. The human delegation was given a guest wing inside the royal palace. The chambers were vast and decorated with silver-like metals and glowing stones. They looked beautiful, but also felt heavy, as though the walls themselves were watching. Guards in dark armor stood at every doorway, their eyes sharp and unreadable. Ambassador Ross paced the room as dawn broke over the alien city. Through the crystal windows, Daniel could see towers that seemed to float in the air, linked by glowing bridges. Ships flew quietly between them like birds across the sky. Ross finally spoke. "Daniel, do you realize what happened yesterday? The Queen spoke to you directly, not me. Not the scientists, you. Do you know what that means?" Daniel shrugged slightly. "It means I answered a very strange question." Ross gave him a sharp look. "It means she is testing you. Testing all of us. The Queen does not waste her words. If she asked about you, it is because she sees something important." The others in the room nodded quietly. The scientists whispered about cultural significance while the guards remained silent, their hands resting near their weapons. Before Daniel could reply, the doors opened. A tall attendant in robes entered, bowing slightly. His eyes were pale blue, his voice calm. "Captain Hayes," he said, "the Queen requests your presence in the Star Garden." Daniel blinked. "Just me?" "Yes, just you." Ross looked uneasy. "Be careful. Every step you take now is not just for yourself. It is for Earth." Daniel gave a small nod, then followed the attendant. The Star Garden was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. It was a vast open chamber with no roof, yet filled with air that shimmered gently. Above, the sky revealed stars even though it was daytime, as if the garden floated between worlds. Strange flowers glowed in colors he had no name for, and streams of liquid light flowed like rivers. At the center stood the Queen. She was without her crown now, dressed in lighter robes that still shimmered with power, yet she did not look less commanding. Instead, she looked more alive, her golden eyes reflecting the glowing streams around her. When Daniel entered, she turned to him with a faint smile. "You came." Daniel bowed his head respectfully. Your Majesty requested it. She studied him for a moment, then walked slowly around the garden. Do you know why I asked you that question yesterday? Daniel hesitated. I thought it was a test or maybe a joke. Her lips curved slightly. No, it was neither. She stopped facing him. I asked because I wanted to know if you belong to someone. If your heart is tied. Because when I saw you, I felt something unusual. Something rare. Daniel's chest tightened. He did not know how to respond. He had expected politics, not personal words. The Queen continued, her voice soft but strong. Humans are different. I have read of your history. Your wars, your unity, your courage to rise even when beaten. You are not the strongest species nor the most advanced. But you are unpredictable. And that makes you dangerous and fascinating. Daniel listened carefully. She was not only speaking to him as a man, but as a symbol of his entire race. She moved closer, her golden eyes never leaving his. I see potential in your people. I see a future, and I wonder if that future can be tied to mine. Daniel felt the weight of her words. This was no simple conversation. This was a proposal, not of marriage, not yet, but of something even larger. An alliance sealed through something personal. Majesty, he said carefully, my duty is to serve my people first. I cannot speak for all humanity alone. The Queen nodded slowly. Yes, but sometimes one voice can change everything. They walked together through the star garden. She asked him about Earth, the oceans, the forests, the cities. Daniel spoke honestly, describing the beauty of sunrise over mountains, the laughter of children in crowded streets, the silence of space when looking down from orbit. The Queen listened intently, as if each word painted a picture in her mind. For a ruler of vast worlds, she seemed almost hungry to know what it meant to be human. Then she spoke again. My nobles think your people are too weak, too young. They say humans are children playing with fire, but I am not so sure, Daniel asked. Why not? She turned toward the stars above. Because you remind me of us long ago. When we too were small yet bold, we grew by daring where others feared. That is why we became strong, and now I see that same fire in you. Her words carried pride but also loneliness. Daniel realized that ruling an empire might look glorious, but it was also heavy, isolating. Perhaps that was why she asked such a strange question yesterday, not only as a test, but as a spark of connection. Later, as they stood near the glowing streams, she looked at him once more. Captain Hayes, she said, if humanity wishes to stand beside the Zilari Empire, then I will give them a chance. But I will not trust empty words. I will trust actions. I will trust you. Daniel's heart raced. What do you mean, Your Majesty? She stepped closer. Her presence was overwhelming, yet not threatening. I mean, I invite you to my palace as my guest. Not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as one I wish to know better. If you accept, humanity will gain my favor. If you refuse, perhaps my nobles will win their argument and Earth will be left alone. Or worse. Daniel realized the weight of her proposal. This was not romance in the simple sense. This was politics woven with personal choice. If he accepted, Earth could gain an ally stronger than any they had dreamed of. If he refused, humanity might be left vulnerable. He took a deep breath. Your Majesty, I will accept. The Queen smiled, her golden eyes glowing brighter. Good. Then tonight you will dine at my table. Let the galaxy see that humanity is not ignored. That evening the Queen announced it to her court. Captain Hayes of Earth will be my honored guest, she declared. He will walk beside me in my hall so all may see that humanity has earned my attention. The nobles whispered fiercely. Some looked angered, others curious. But none dared to challenge her. Daniel stood tall, though inside his heart pounded. He was not sure where this path would lead, but he knew it was bigger than himself. As the Queen's gaze found his once more, he understood one thing clearly. Humanity's future was now tied to her words, her interest and her proposal, and whether he liked it or not, he was at the center of it. The question that had begun as a shock was now becoming something far greater. From the story, when the alien queen saw me, she asked, "Are you single human?" Captain Daniel Hayes had walked into battles before, but nothing felt as strange as walking through the palace of Queen Saralith. He was not carrying a weapon, not wearing armor, but somehow he felt like he was stepping onto a battlefield where every move mattered. The palace was alive with light. Walls shifted color slowly as if they breathed. The floor was polished stone, but it reflected the sky above as though it were water. Zalari nobles walked past, their eyes following Daniel with curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes amusement. To them, a human was still an odd creature, new and untested, but he was no longer just a visitor. He had been chosen by the Queen herself as her personal guest. That title alone carried weight. At the Queen's invitation, Daniel began spending time in the palace. Each day was filled with experiences that tested his patience and his understanding. The first challenge came during the Feast of Tides, a banquet where alien dishes filled long, glowing tables. The nobles ate food that shifted colors, hummed softly, or released faint sparks when touched. Daniel sat near the Queen, who watched him closely as a plate was placed in front of him. On the plate lay a dish that looked like a coiled ribbon of silver, steaming gently. When Daniel touched it with the provided fork, it let out a faint sound, almost like a whistle. The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Eat, Captain. Let us see if humans are as brave at the table as they are in battle." Daniel hesitated, but only for a moment. He had survived field rations that smelled worse. He lifted the food to his mouth, chewed, and swallowed. The taste was sharp but not unpleasant, like a mix of salt and sweet. The Queen smiled faintly. The nobles whispered to one another, surprised he had eaten without complaint. "Not bad," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice calm. The Queen laughed lightly, the sound ringing like bells. "Then you may yet survive our customs." The second challenge was a test of strength and balance. In the palace courtyard stood a ring of crystal pillars, each rising high above a pool of shimmering water. It was tradition for honored guests to step across the pillars, leaping from one to the next. When Daniel was led there, many nobles gathered to watch. Some smirked, expecting him to fall. The Queen stood nearby, her arms folded. "Show them, human. Show them you do not fear a challenge." Daniel looked at the pillars. They were far apart, the surfaces narrow and smooth. One wrong step and he would drop into the glowing water below. He did not know if that water was safe. Taking a breath, he stepped onto the first pillar. It shifted slightly under his weight. He steadied himself, then jumped to the next. The nobles murmured. One by one, he crossed, focusing on each step. His military training helped: balance, breath control, awareness. When he reached the last pillar, he raised his hand slightly. The Queen clapped once, and surprisingly, some nobles joined. Their murmurs now held less scorn and more respect. "You learn quickly," the Queen said. "That is a human gift." The third challenge was not of body, but of wit. During the evening, the Queen invited Daniel to sit in a circle with her advisors. A game of riddles was played where each person posed a question that had no simple answer. One noble asked Daniel, "What is the heaviest thing a human can carry?" Daniel thought for a moment, then replied, "A guilty heart." The nobles fell silent. Then some nodded slowly, impressed. The Queen's golden eyes gleamed with approval. Another asked, "What is the sharpest weapon of your people?" Daniel answered, "Hope, because it cuts through fear." The Queen smiled at that, and even the doubtful nobles muttered in agreement. Through each challenge, Daniel felt the weight of eyes on him. He was not only proving himself, he was proving humanity. Later that night, after the tests were done, Daniel found himself walking through the palace gardens beside the Queen. Strange trees glowed softly, their branches humming with a quiet energy. The air smelled sweet, like rain after a storm. The Queen walked gracefully, her robe trailing behind her. She glanced at him with curiosity. "You did well today. My nobles expected you to fail, but you surprised them." Daniel gave a small smile. "I've been told humans are full of surprises." She stopped and looked at him seriously. "That is what I must know. Can humanity truly adapt to this galaxy? Can you bend without breaking? Can you face what is beyond the stars and not turn back?" Daniel met her gaze. "We've always faced what was bigger than us. Earth itself tried to kill us with storms, cold heat. Yet we survived. We fight, yes, but we also build. That is who we are." The Queen's expression softened. For a moment she did not look like a ruler of empires, but like someone searching for something she had not found in a long time. "Your people remind me of ours," she said quietly. "Long ago, before we grew proud. You carry the same fire." The next day the Queen summoned him again, this time to a chamber filled with ancient carvings. The walls told the story of the Zalari, their rise from small tribes to a mighty empire. "Do you see this?" she asked. Daniel studied the carvings. Battles, victories, crowns, and alliances. It's your history. Yes, she said, but it is also a warning. Power can make us forget who we are. My nobles think strength is all that matters. But strength without spirit is empty. She turned to him, her golden eyes bright. That is why I asked you on the first day if you were single. I wish to see your reaction, not only as a man but as a human. Would you laugh? Would you boast? Would you shrink away? Instead, you answered with duty. That is why I watch you now. Daniel felt a strange mix of pride and unease. He was still unsure what path he was walking, but he understood one thing clearly. The Queen saw more in him than just a guest. Days passed, and Daniel continued to walk between two worlds, human and Zalari. He spoke honestly, laughed when he could, and learned from their customs. Some nobles still distrusted him, but others began to respect him. One evening, as the sun of the alien world sank into the horizon, the Queen stood beside him on a balcony. Stars began to appear, shining like diamonds. She spoke softly, almost as if to herself. Perhaps your people and mine are not so different after all. Daniel looked at her, then at the stars. Maybe that's why we found each other. The Queen turned, her golden eyes meeting his once more. For a moment there was silence, and then she smiled. A smile not of a ruler, but of someone who had finally seen something new in the universe. And Daniel realized that what had begun as a strange question was now becoming a bridge between two people and between two civilizations. The culture clash was not breaking them apart. It was bringing them closer. From the story, when the alien queen saw me, she asked, "Are you single human?" Captain Daniel Hayes woke to an urgent call from the palace communications hub. The air was thick with tension, and the usual glow of the palace lights seemed harsher today. Daniel rubbed his eyes and stepped into the chamber where the Queen's advisors gathered. Captain Hayes, one of the pale-eyed nobles said, voice trembling slightly, "You must come quickly. The situation, it is grave." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Grave, explain. A holographic display sprang to life before him, showing distant stars and a streak of dark energy moving through space. The Queen entered the room quietly, her golden eyes sharp. "This is the Vornis fleet," she said. Her voice carried the calm power of a ruler, but a hint of worry hid beneath it. "They move faster than we expected. Their numbers are immense. They do not seek peace. If they reach us first, countless worlds will fall, including yours, human." Daniel stared at the display. The Vornis were a species he had only heard of in classified files. They were enormous, merciless, and feared even by the Zalari. Their ships were jagged and black, almost living in their design, and their approach left a trail of destruction in space. "Your Majesty," Daniel said, steadying his voice. "What is our plan?" The Queen's gaze turned to him, piercing. "The plan is to fight. But first, I need to know if I can trust humanity. If you cannot stand with us, then Earth will be alone." Daniel felt the weight of those words. He had been here to build trust, to prove humanity's worth through diplomacy and courage. Now that trust was being tested in the harshest way possible, through an impending war. "I will fight," he said without hesitation. "Humanity will stand beside you." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded, a silent approval that carried more meaning than words could hold. The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Daniel moved between the humans and the Zalari, translating strategies, observing technology, and coordinating joint exercises. The humans had much to learn. Zalari ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their tactical simulations far beyond Earth's experience. Yet Daniel noticed something remarkable. The Zalari admired humanity's adaptability. During one simulation, a small human team outmaneuvered a Zalari warship by thinking in a way the aliens had never considered, using unpredictable patterns, clever distractions, and a touch of improvisation. The Queen watched closely, her golden eyes glimmering with approval. "You see, Captain Hayes," she said afterward, "your people do not have our strength. They have something far more dangerous, creativity." Daniel smiled faintly. "Then maybe we are not so different after all." She did not respond immediately. Instead, she looked at him as if weighing more than words could convey. One evening, Daniel stood on the balcony overlooking the city as reports came in from distant outposts. The Vornis fleet was advancing faster than expected. Space currents favored their movement, allowing them to bypass several patrols. The Queen appeared beside him.
"They are close," she said simply. Daniel nodded.
"How long do we have?" Not much. Days, perhaps hours, he felt a chill run through him. Humanity had faced threats before. Natural disasters, war, disease, but nothing like this. Entire civilizations could be destroyed in the blink of an eye. Your Majesty, he said, we cannot match them ship for ship. But perhaps we can surprise them, use speed and unpredictability like in the simulations. She studied him carefully. Yes, and that is why I need you. You think differently. You may see opportunities we do not. Daniel felt both pride and fear. The Queen trusted him, not only as a human but as a strategist. The next day, Daniel attended a council meeting in the royal palace. He was surrounded by the most powerful Zalari minds, admirals, generals, and diplomats. Their voices clashed in heated debates. We must attack at once, one general demanded. Delay will bring disaster. Patience, another countered. We do not know the Vornis' strength. Reckless strike could doom us all. Daniel listened quietly. Then he raised his hand, drawing the room's attention. I propose a third way, he said. We combine your power with our strategy. We split the fleet, some to defend key positions, others to create a diversion. The Vornis will not expect unconventional tactics from humans. We can use that to our advantage. There was silence. The nobles exchanged glances. The Queen leaned forward. Explain. Daniel outlined his plan step by step. Humans would lead small squads in hit-and-run maneuvers, forcing the Vornis to overcommit. Zalari warships would strike when the enemy was distracted. Timing, coordination, and creativity would be their greatest weapons. The room buzzed with debate, but the Queen's golden eyes remained fixed on him. You speak well, human. You may lead this effort. In the days before the battle, Daniel trained alongside Zalari soldiers. They shared their weapons, their ships, and their knowledge. The more he learned, the more he realized the gap between their civilizations, and the more he appreciated humanity's unique strength. Humans could adapt, improvise, and think outside patterns. That would be the key to survival. During one training session, a young Zalari cadet watched Daniel with awe. You are small but fearless, she said quietly. Daniel smiled. Size does not matter. Heart does, the cadet nodded. The Queen chose wisely. Daniel realized that every person he met, human or Zalari, was depending on him. This was no longer a game of diplomacy. This was survival. Finally, the day came when the Vornis fleet entered Zalari space. Sensors lit up with hundreds of massive ships, their black forms cutting across the stars. Daniel stood on the bridge of a joint human-Zalari cruiser, watching the enemy approach. The Queen appeared beside him. She had chosen to command from the front, a move that inspired both awe and fear among her people. Are you ready? She asked, her golden eyes scanning his face. Daniel nodded. As ready as we can be. Humans are not the strongest, but we will not back down. Her lips curved in a faint smile. That is why I brought you here. Your courage gives me hope. As the battle began, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline. The Vornis moved like shadows, striking at supply routes and outposts. But the humans and Zalari had anticipated them. Small squads struck unpredictably, causing confusion among the enemy. Zalari ships followed with precision, their power amplifying the human tactics. Daniel led his squad personally, moving between ships and directing attacks. Every decision counted. One wrong move could cost lives. Not just human lives, but Zalari too. And yet, as chaos filled the void of space, Daniel felt a sense of unity. Humans and Zalari fought side by side, learning from one another. The culture clash that had begun with strange questions and tests was now turning into a powerful alliance forged under fire. Above the battle, the Queen watched with admiration. Daniel's courage, quick thinking, and humanity had already begun to shape the course of the fight. The Vornis were formidable, but they had underestimated the unpredictable fire of humans combined with the strength of the Zalari. Daniel clenched his fists. We can do this, he whispered. Together. And for the first time he felt that humanity was not just surviving in the galaxy. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with. The threat was real. The danger immense, but hope burned brighter than ever. From the story, when the alien queen saw me, she asked, Are you single human? The black void of space stretched endlessly before them, pierced by the stars of countless systems. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge of the human Zalari, cruiser Aurora, heart pounding as the fleet readied itself for the battle to come. The Vornis fleet was approaching fast, jagged warships moving like predators in the dark. Captain Hayes, one of the Zilari officers said, voice tense. They are within firing range. The time has come. Daniel nodded, gripping the railing. All units execute the plan we practiced. Humans in the front, Zilari flanking. Stay sharp and adapt if needed. Remember, creativity and courage win where power alone cannot. The Queen's voice came over the comms, calm, commanding, and unwavering. Let the Vornis see the fire of two species united. Fight with honor, fight with skill, and do not retreat. Daniel felt a surge of determination. He had trained for this moment, but nothing could truly prepare him for the sight of hundreds of massive enemy ships filling the stars ahead. The battle began suddenly. Explosions lit the void as the Vornis fired massive plasma beams. The human squadrons darted forward, small but fast, drawing enemy attention. The Zilari ships followed with precision, cutting through enemy lines with sheer firepower. Daniel's squadron moved like shadows. They used unexpected routes, weaving between debris fields and asteroid belts, striking enemy weak points. Every movement was calculated, yet unpredictable. The Vornis commanders struggled to anticipate human tactics. "Divert left!" Daniel shouted over the comms. "Distract their front lines while the Zilari flank from above." The humans executed flawlessly, weaving and dodging while launching small missiles at critical points. The Vornis were powerful, but their rigidity became their weakness. Daniel's heart raced with each strike. Amid the chaos, Daniel noticed a Vornis destroyer targeting the Queen's flagship. "Enemy on a direct course to the Queen," he shouted. The Queen's voice remained steady. "I trust you, human. Protect them." Daniel's squadron shifted immediately. They launched daring maneuvers, intercepting the destroyer and diverting its weapons. Humans and Zilari fired in perfect coordination, taking down the ship before it could reach the flagship. The Queen's ship glided past, untouched, as she spoke directly to Daniel. "You saved my command. That act will not be forgotten." Daniel swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Every decision he made could cost lives. And yet, in that moment, he felt the power of unity, the combined skill and courage of two species fighting as one. The battle raged on for hours. The void was filled with flashing beams, explosions, and the roar of engines. Daniel's hands moved quickly, directing his squad, adapting to every unexpected move the Vornis made. At one point, a massive enemy ship broke through the human front line, its weapons targeting the Aurora. Daniel's mind raced. He remembered an old human strategy from Earth history: divide and distract. "Everyone split into two groups," he commanded. "We'll draw them into the asteroid field. Use the terrain to our advantage." The squadron followed his orders. The massive Vornis ship pursued them into the dense asteroid belt, where human agility and knowledge of unpredictability gave them the upper hand. Missiles fired from unexpected angles, beams of energy bounced off asteroids, and the ship's path became trapped. With one final coordinated strike, they destroyed it. The fleet cheered, even over comms. Daniel allowed himself a brief smile, but he knew the battle was far from over. Meanwhile, the Queen led her fleet with brilliance. She commanded with confidence, her ships moving like extensions of her will. Daniel watched her through the comms, noting her ability to remain calm under pressure. Her golden eyes seemed to see every possible outcome at once. "Captain Hayes," she said finally, voice steady, "you have shown courage beyond what I expected. Your people are worthy allies." Daniel felt a warmth in his chest. He had never fought for recognition but for survival, and for the chance to prove humanity's value. Yet hearing the Queen praise them lifted the morale of every human in the fleet. The turning point came when a large Vornis battle station appeared from hyperspace behind the main fleet. Its size was terrifying, larger than any ship Daniel had seen, with energy cannons capable of destroying multiple cruisers at once. "Everyone focus," Daniel shouted. "We cannot allow them to dominate the battlefield. We must strike now." He coordinated with human pilots, creating daring attack patterns. Zilari ships followed his lead, forming a pincer movement. The humans used their speed and creativity. darting through gaps while the Zelari unleashed powerful volleys. Daniel led a squad directly to the battle station. He felt the heat from energy blasts, the vibrations from explosions, and the fear of death. But he pressed on. He remembered Earth's history. Humans had survived disasters far worse than this because they refused to give up. With a final daring maneuver, they struck the battle station's core, causing a chain reaction. It exploded in a brilliant cascade of light, rocking the Vornis fleet. The Vornis began to retreat. Their formations broke as human and Zelari forces pressed forward. The Queen's voice echoed across the fleet. "Victory is ours, but remain vigilant. This is not the end, only the beginning." Daniel allowed himself to exhale. His squad cheered, though many were exhausted. Humans and Zelari alike had fought, side by side, proving that unity and courage could overcome even the greatest threats. He looked at the stars and felt pride. Humanity had surprised the galaxy, not through sheer power but through ingenuity, bravery, and the willingness to stand together with others. After the battle, the Queen invited Daniel to her flagship for a debrief. The room was calm now, filled with the glow of stars and distant nebulae. "You did well," she said simply. Her golden eyes studied him, but there was a warmth there now, a recognition. "Your people fought with honor. They have earned respect across the stars." Daniel felt humbled. "Thank you, Your Majesty. We only did what we had to do." She smiled faintly. "And yet that is enough. Not all species have the courage to act, even when the odds are against them. Humans are rare. I am glad I chose to know you." Daniel blinked. Her words carried layers of meaning. He realized she did not only mean him as an individual. She meant humanity itself. His species had proven itself worthy of the galaxy's trust. That night, as Daniel looked out from the Queen's balcony, he saw the stars reflecting in the calm waters below. The city seemed peaceful, almost serene after the chaos of battle. The Queen appeared beside him, quiet and composed. "Captain Hayes," she said softly, "you have earned not only my respect, but that of your people. Tell me, are you still single human?" Daniel chuckled softly, remembering the first time she had asked. "Yes, Your Majesty, I am." Her eyes gleamed in the starlight. "Then perhaps this is only the beginning, not of a war, but of something greater." Daniel felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders, and humanity had just taken its first true step into it. Yet for the first time he felt that they were not alone. They had allies, powerful, wise, and even curious about humans in ways he had never imagined. The battle of the void was over, but a new journey had just begun. And somewhere deep in the Queen's golden gaze, Daniel sensed that humanity's story in the stars was only just starting to shine.